Everyone remembers the 40th President of the United States for his witty one-liners, sense of humor, and electoral college victories. But did you know he had an astrologer on the payroll? While we have endeavored to be even-handed and fair-minded, some of this relies on conflicting reports from adversarial parties, who would dispute much of the content. Some claim President Reagan's involvement with an astrologer was cursory at best, and done only to humor Mrs. Reagan. Ronald himself asserted, "No policy or decision, in my mind, has ever been influenced by astrology." Others will note, however, that he was careful not to reveal the exact time of his birth, and, from that caution, impute to the president an awareness of the potential nefarious use of that information. The full truth may only be known to the people directly involved. In 1981, following the assassination attempt on her husband, First Lady Nancy Reagan began consulting regularly with astrologer Joan Quigley. It began out of an effort to keep him alive. Nancy would later write, quote, "Very few people can understand what it's like to have your husband shot at and almost die, and then have him exposed all the time to enormous crowds. Tens of thousands of people, any one of whom might be a lunatic with a gun. I was doing everything I could think of to protect my husband and keep him alive." End quote. One might ask, why, and why an astrologer? Keep in mind that the presidency, both then and even more so now, is one of the least private, most surveilled, most documented, most investigated jobs on Earth. According to some reports, the Reagans paid their astrologer around $30,000 to $35,000 a year for near-daily consultations. Adjusting for inflation, that is the equivalent to around $100,000 a year as of 2023. What kind of advice would you get for that price? Astrologers observe the motion of the planets through the zodiac and would look for favorable moments for a given activity. Given Mrs. Reagan's concern for her husband's life, one might suspect a special attention on any particular days or times that present unusual danger. President Reagan's assertion may well be true that the advice was not related to policy or other decisions, rather the timing of events. Some former staff members would later remark that nothing happened in the Reagan White House without running it by the astrologer first, and expressed frustration that meetings and events were always being shuffled around or pushed back at the whims of the astrologer. Quigley would later claim, "Not since the days of the Roman emperors, and never in the history of the United States presidency, has an astrologer played such a significant role in the nation's affairs of state." What's the truth of the subject? We'll leave that for you to judge. Like and subscribe.